Hello, welcome back to Tail 3 Cabins. It is a good day to go fishing. Want to see what I mean? Stick around and check it out. Back when I cut down a large oak tree down the driveway in the wintertime, there was a lot of wood that I did not have time to get to and was still left into the woods, and it was just hard to get to it because it was so muddy at the time. Things have dried out a little bit, but it's still a little muddy, but not as bad. So I think it's a good time to just try to fish these out, get them over to the side where it's going to be easier to work with, where I can split them and cut them up later.
Get behind me. Move it! Come back there!
Even though we're in the latter part of July, it's still kind of muddy in this area. It's much drier than it was in the spring, but I still need to be cautious. I wouldn't want the wheel to dip down low, a lot of weight on one side of the tractor, and very easy to tip it over. Now usually when I have a video that includes the brush crusher, just like this video, I'll always get a comment of someone who has a grapple with a third function hydraulic saying that I should have bought that instead, or it's much better. And I'll comment on that in a little bit. I will say, like all tractor attachments, there's a learning curve with them. You have to get used to them. The more time you use them, the better. And sometimes you need a little finesse when you want to pick up some of these pieces of wood. I went back to check some of my older videos, and I've had this brush crusher now. It's going to be 6 years come this October. This is when I first got it. It was on a pallet and you had to assemble it. And at the time, if you could see, there's no center teeth on it. So you just had the two ends. And a little while later, they took out that center bar and just added another option to add more teeth in the middle. But as you can see, I've used my brush crusher quite a bit throughout the years. It came in very handy when we were tearing apart the cabin down in southern Ohio. It is great for picking up brush and just tearing into things like these overgrown grapevines. But I would say the one drawback with the brush crusher, and this is where a grapple would probably supersede or shine above it, is that there's no force to unclamp it. It basically works by gravity. So if you pinch something in there really good, like I have this fencing all intertwined and tangled in there, the teeth on the brush crusher has jagged edges, it's very hard to get that off, and I had to use wire cutters to do it. Naturally, the brush crusher likes things to be rounded, some sort to wrap itself around it. If you have something like this subfloor from our old cabinet we're tearing apart, it did okay. It really helped out a lot. We used it more for picking up insulation, but when you have something flat, it's a little bit harder to work with, a little bit harder to grab. And this is an awkward piece to begin with, no matter what I had, but you also need to work in a way so you know that an implement has its limitations, and you know when it is time to change out that implement to something else that might work a little bit better. For example, right here, the forks would work a little bit better. Now, I don't know what the cost of a brush crusher is today. This is 6 years old. I believe I spent somewhere around $1,400 for it when I first got it, and there was a couple hundred more dollars to put the teeth in the center. So I was somewhere around $1,800 total. When I priced out a grapple at that time, they were around $3,000. And again, I haven't done any research. I don't know what these things cost in today's dollar, but I'm sure it's a lot more. And I don't know if there's still a good savings if you went with the brush crusher over a grapple. Well, it's starting to look like we overfished this area and things are starting to get a little slim here. Okay, I think I got my limit today for fishing for wood. I got a good variety here. These will dry out a little bit and then I'll start cutting them up with the chainsaw and starting to split them maybe when it starts cooling off a little bit in August. Hopefully it cools off a little bit in August. Okay, that is going to do it for today. I appreciate everybody watching. I hope you enjoyed and subscribe to these videos. Click on that little bell when you want to know when a new one is coming out and keep an eye on us. Take care, everybody.